Okay, everyone on Zoom should have gotten a notification of being live streamed. Here we are. So, welcome everybody. It is so good to be here with all of you. Those of you who are here in person, and for the folks on Zoom, there are 9 people in the congregation. So we have actually a minion here in the room. And on Zoom, we have 21 devices. So we have at least twice a minion on Zoom. So we are in great shape. Diane says, why don't we see you, Rabbi? And the answer to that is, you do see me, but you see me sort of from the side. Here I am. I can spotlight us. I want to share with you this evening that Michael Rose, who is usually our able tech person and who is usually here kind of monitoring to make sure everything is going okay and adjusting things on the fly, he is not here tonight. He's my husband, and he's not here tonight. He is in Nashville for, unfortunately, the funeral of one of his second cousins, although he is here with us on Zoom, but he can't change things on the fly here in the sanctuary. So he showed me what to do, and I'm going to do the best that I can, and I'm going to just ask for your patience. Those of you on Zoom, I recognize this may not be the best camera angle we've ever had. We're still kind of messing around with where we can put the camera so that I can control everything, and also like with the camera there, you can see Noni and I both, and that's good because I can't adjust the camera all the time. We have to attach a big stick to it or something so that I can do that. So all that said, I've been a little discombobulated, so now I would like to invite myself and all of you to take a deep breath and let go of the week. We're entering into the time of Shabbat, the sacred time when we can rest, when we can feel peace enter into us, when we can try to put down whatever it is we carry around with us during the week, and recognize that it'll still be there at the end of Shabbat, and if it isn't, all the better.
And can I just say one thing before we start?
Please.
So I'm not wearing a mask, and I could, but I did today stand for 2 hours at Pro Health and get my negative COVID test. So as long as nobody's really anywhere near me, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
So here it is.
Thank you for saying that, Noni. CVS on Avenue U has a drive-through as a point of information for
testing,
anybody
really?
who wants to do a drive-through test. So
Avenue U and where? But I went to the Pro Health next door. I didn't see that they had the CVS next to the Pro Health. Oh.
Welcome, Joseph and Emily. We'll start services eventually.
Okay, we're good now.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. I'm, just kidding. This is how we roll, right, folks? All right. So in the prayer book, we're beginning on page 127 in the bracketed numbers. Or those of you in the room, if you can read it on the screen, you can just read it on the screen. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Now, I wonder if anybody on Zoom has candles ready to go, or if anybody in the sanctuary would like the honor of the blessing over the candles. Anyone?
I have candles.
Linda Horowitz has candles. Linda, please.
I have them. 1 second.
Yes, you can go ahead and light our candles, Noni.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we come now to the Kiddush, page 123. Alan, could I invite you to come up and do the Kiddush? I forgot how we do it. You can use this mic right here. What did I say? 123. Bracketed numbers.
I did hear you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who, finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made us a holy Shabbat, our heritage, as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
If you're able, please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא מקדש השבת
You may be seated. I apologize to everyone that Noni got muted in the middle there. That was my fault because I forgot that everything is going through my computer and I was trying to only mute myself. So I won't do that again. We turn now to page 138 in the prayer book for Lecha Dodi, and we imagine the Shabbat as a bride bringing beauty and joy to our day wherever we may be, in the sanctuary here or in the sanctuary of our own homes.
לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמעו וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי יברכו אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing for the Baruch Hu, page 146.
Lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד. המבורך, המבורך לעולם ועד.
On page 148, I invite you to read with me. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממני לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue with the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך. והיו לי תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני
Page 157. Let's all read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Ya lai lai la lai la la lai lai ya lai 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 la la lai lai ya lai la lai lai ya lai 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 ya lai 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 la 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 lai mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh norati hilot osef eleh norati hilot osef eleh מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זהילי אנו ואמרו, זהילי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 161. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up our guardian to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporez sukat shalom Elenu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We have come to the Tefillah, page 164. If you're able, I invite you to please rise.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. On page 173 at the top, I invite you to read with me. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt. in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. We come now to our blessing of gratitude, Modim, and it's our custom to give people the opportunity to share something that they're grateful for at this time. So you're welcome, if you're on Zoom, to put what you're grateful for in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and I will call on you to share out loud what it is that you're grateful for. So, Alan. Alan is, so people on Zoom, you couldn't hear Alan, could you?
No.
No. So Alan is grateful that last Saturday he was able to Zoom in to another Leilad service that was led by friends of his and Karen Eichels, and that this week he is here with us. So Modim anachnu lach for that. We are grateful for that. Let's see. Charlotte is grateful that she will get her booster shot tomorrow at Coney Island Hospital. Linda Kushner-Silverman is grateful for a good report from the oncologist. Amen to that. Michael Rose is grateful to be with his family in Nashville that he hasn't seen in a decade. Susan Sisler is grateful for the cool, crisp air that energizes her body and brings clarity to her mind. I'm also grateful for the weather. Linda Horowitz is grateful for, as always, everything, especially good health, family, and friends. Karen Kramer is grateful that her daughter is visiting and taking her to a play tomorrow night. Roseanne Levitt got her flu shot in her left arm and the booster in her right arm, so she is all vaccinated up. Modim anachnu lach for that, Roseanne. Gail and Bob are grateful for beautiful weather and being outdoors a lot and biking and doing yoga outdoors. Somebody else who's in the room? Karen. So grateful to be here together in person with Noni and with me and with Michael Tornick and with everyone. Yes, Ruth. So grateful to be back in person after a year and a half. I am grateful for that too, and I am also grateful that we are getting better and better at figuring out how we can be here in person safely and have people joining in on Zoom and make it an experience that works for everyone. And I'm actually feeling really good about how that's going right now. So I'm so grateful for that as well. Diane Schenker.
Grateful for having a wonderful family and that Les is doing okay and that we had time to play with Charlie Ray Schenker and her baby brother.
All right. People in the room, could you hear that? Sort of? Okay. Diane Schenker is grateful that Lester is doing okay, and also she had the opportunity to visit with great-granddaughter?
Yes, and
Great-granddaughter Charlie Ray Schenker and her little brother. Catherine. Catherine is overjoyed to hear Michael Tornick on the keys of the piano. I was going to say something fancy, but I got lost in the middle there. Oscar. Grateful for the sense of community. Awesome. Anybody else?
I'm grateful that people who love to sing in choirs are back singing together because we can all be vaccinated and tested frequently, but the feeling of being back with your friends and singing in a choir, there's been so missed, and everybody's just overjoyed about that.
Yeah. I'm looking to see if anybody else in the room. Michael Tornick.
Yes, I want to say that I'm very grateful to be back here and this beautiful, beautiful sanctuary with all of you, and particularly with my friend Alan Zarrow, with whom, I won't say how long ago, but with whom we shared a Hebrew school time upstairs, and at the same time, we're in the Cub Scouts downstairs on Tuesday nights, and I won't tell you when that was, but it was back in the Johnson administration.
People on Zoom, could you hear that? No? Okay, so Michael Tornick is grateful to be back here accompanying us. And for those who don't know, he and Alan Zarrow grew up together here at Temple, going to religious school upstairs and Cub Scouts downstairs, and getting up to all sorts of mischief.
And being bar mitzvahed, right?
And they got bar mitzvahed. And Michael Tornick used to be the accompanist here and then had a hiatus, and now he's back. And so, you know, hijinks can ensue again. Eslyn is grateful for the cool weather. Mary Lou, you're unmuted. Do you have something to add?
I'm grateful for the technology and Mike Rose, long distance, that we can all be together. He's a good teacher, among other things. And I'm grateful for you and also Noni. I'm grateful for modern science and medicine. I'm grateful that some of you met my husband earlier before the poetry text started. That was a good thing. And I'm also grateful that we have rain in the forecast. Last week we had 5/100ths of an inch, and we were just jumping up and down to have just that much. So we do have light rain in the forecast. And I'm grateful for a very friendly and efficient DMV office.
Wow, a friendly and efficient DMV office. That is awesome. What? She is in California. I was just going to make that point. Mary Lou is in California, Southern California, which is why she's praying for rain there.
And why the DMV office is.
And
okay.
maybe why the DMV office is quick and efficient. I don't know. I don't know. I've had good DMV experiences here as well. Believe it
Always
or not.
good with the DMV here, always.
It's good to have you. Modim anachnu lach.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, great. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'el lehodot. We continue now on page 178 with Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace in our world and in our homes and in our hearts.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. And now we've come to our quiet prayer. If you have a prayer book, there are words on pages 180 and 181. If you can see the screen, there are some words on the screen, but of course, we can always use the words that are in our own hearts. We continue quietly.
יהיו לרצון עם רפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
We turn our thoughts now to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If you are on Zoom and you have names of people that you would like to add for our prayers for healing, you can put those names in the chat now, and I'll also give you a chance to say them aloud. We hold in our thoughts and in our hearts for healing this evening Jesse Sakharoff, Ira Weiss, Elaine Drucker, Allison Plummer, Patty-Ann Cubero, Rabbi Dara Lerner, Susan Sisler, Alan Fremer, Valerie Pace, George Landberg, Susan Balecki, Dana Haitkin Nelson, Arlene Rosenthal, Michael Luck, Randall Rose, Arthur Rose, Barbara Weiner, Joan Lifshitz, Amy Juskowitz Soonseller, Deanna Roth, Roz Bornstein, Ingrid Grosso, Audrey Cohen, Eddie DeAngelis, Ira Goldman, Vicki Lightmaker, Sarah Brooks Kamen, Nettie Trummer, Mia Gannon, Jeff Abel, Monica Bayer, Patty and Erwin Cohen, Judith Weiss, Fran Arnowitz, Debbie Lichman, Beth Dugan, Arlene Scher, Hannah Paines, Karen Wilco, Jackson and Tara Kushner, Shelley Samet, David Gershon, Stanley Tenen, Ronnie Katlowitz, Linda Kushner Silverman, Jordan Smith, Peggy Harvey, Martha and Ed Vincent, Sandra Pastor, Claire Florence Kramer, Debbie Kosman, Shirley Amrani. What names would you like to add, those who are here in the room? Alan? Thank you. Karen? Jody Siegel Stein, Saul Siegel, Jeff Horn, Keiki Akola, Lance Grant, Joycelyn Elbers, Adrian Knoll, Les Shanker, Robin Parr, Seth Schrager, Ron Cricky, Laura Cricky, Susan and Tony Vi, Jean and Jerry Larry Green, Zizi Potsdam, Eve Heyman, Estelle Altork, Brenda McBasey, Brenda Katroser, Suzanne Mishler Hernandez, Elliot Woofsey, Baby James Scarpula, Paul Markowitz, Nancy Kelly, Anne Marie Demetro. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. All those who have been affected by breast cancer, either as patients or as family members supporting their loved ones. Sal Comiso, Saul Siegel, Laurie Silverman, Ian and Lauren Silverman, Janet Schlesinger, and Jerry Jaffe. Does anyone, Prima, go ahead.
Wasim El Hanafi, Martin Bennett, Carol Beanstock, Reuben David Cohen, Phyllis O'Neill, David Goldberg, Karen Hope Tublin, and Kathy's brother Gabby. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. We include also all of those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, and those who have been hurt in recent disasters, whether natural disasters, including floods and fires and earthquakes, or human-created disasters, including conflicts around the world, including in Afghanistan. If you have a prayer book, you can find the Misha Berach on page 371 in the bracketed numbers in the middle of the page.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu b'kor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's so good to be here and to feel like, you know, we're all here together, whether we're on Zoom or in the room, as it is colloquially termed these days, roomers and Zoomers, as distinct from the Zoomers being the Generation Z kids, which I guess are my kids. I don't know. Anyway, so this week I heard a story on the radio about parasites. A scientist was explaining that he studies parasites, ticks, lice, bacteria, viruses, worms, that infect primates like apes and monkeys and lemurs. And I meant to look up whether lemurs are actually primates, but then I forgot. So we're just going to say that they're primates for the sake of our discussion this evening. About 50% of primates are endangered species. And it turns out that there are some parasites that are specialists and they only affect one species. They only inhabit one species. And so if the species that they infect is endangered and goes extinct, then the parasite will go extinct as well, because the parasite won't have a host anymore. And so this is what the scientist was discussing. He talked about the fact that people don't think about parasites going extinct. They think about, the big animals, especially the furry ones, and that are attractive or majestic, like pandas or lemurs. So the interviewer on the radio says to the scientist, basically, she was a little more polite than this, but basically what she said was, so what? What does it matter if a parasite goes extinct if the animal that it inhabits goes extinct? What difference does it make if this parasite, where that's the only thing that it did, is gone from the world? And I have to say that I found the scientist's answer to be kind of unsatisfying. What he said was, we don't really know what role the parasite might play in the population of animals, and that maybe the parasite helps to regulate the number of the animals it inhabits in the environment. And I thought that answer didn't make so much sense, because the whole point is that if the animal is extinct, the population's gone. There's nothing to regulate. So that didn't, I didn't know kind of what he meant by that. But I feel like the real answer, which he went on to say, was that there's a lot that we don't know about these parasites and what their role is. And of course, it's true that there are many organisms in the world that may have functions or offer benefits that we're unaware of at this juncture. And if they go extinct, we may never learn what they might have to contribute. That's his answer as a scientist. I would say that the Jewish answer is somewhat different than that. In this week's Torah portion, Breshit, we read about the creation of the world. There are those who say that the Torah contradicts science, and therefore either the Torah or what we learned through science must be right, and that science and the Torah cannot both be right. And there are those who try to fit science and the Torah together and claim, for example, that the order in which creation happens in the Torah is roughly correct. Now, totally aside from the fact that the Torah has two creation stories in a row in which things are created in a different order, it's my position that there is actually no need to try to reconcile science and the Torah, or to choose one or the other, because the Torah isn't history and it isn't science, it's theology. Science can and does teach us a lot about what happened and how it happened as the world developed and continues to develop. The Torah and Jewish tradition teach us about our relationship with the world and why we are here and what our purpose is. Science and the Torah are doing two different things that are complementary, trying to answer different important questions. What science and the Torah have in common is that it is exceedingly unlikely that we will ever have all of the answers in either realm, science or theology. In Breshit, the first parsha in the Torah, we read, God now said, let us make human beings in our image, after our likeness, and let them hold sway over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the beasts, over all that creeps on the earth. So God created human beings in the divine image, creating them in the image of God, creating them male and female. God then blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and tame it, hold sway over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, and over every animal that creeps on the earth." So that's from the first story of creation, day 6 of that 7-day creation story. Good evening, Freddie. Why don't you just go sit right over there? Just move over a little more. Just make some, so that there's a little bit of space between you and the person in front of you. That's perfect, right there. Welcome. So, other translations of this same text that I just read says, rather than hold sway over all the earth, it says that God gave dominion over the earth to human beings. And that's actually closer to the literal meaning of the Hebrew. And some people have understood this over the centuries to mean that human beings can do anything they want with the earth, its plants, and its creatures. And we've been seeing how well that's been going for us. There's a different understanding of that text, which I think is the correct one, and that is that having dominion, being in charge, doesn't mean that you can do anything you want. Instead, it means that we are responsible for taking care of the world on God's behalf. It is using our dominion, our power, for stewardship of the world. As Spider-Man's uncle said to him, with great power comes great responsibility. That's important Torah. We humans do largely dominate the natural world, and so it's our job to take care of it. There's another part of the Bible that talks about creation, and it talks about it in a very different way than the descriptive stories that we read in Bereshit. In the book of Job, as many terrible things happen to our hero Job, and he is suffering greatly, he cries out to God and demands answers. And God answers. We read out of the whirlwind, and it is intense. "Where were you when I created the world?" says God. In addition to asking Job whether he, Job, was the one who created the natural world, which we know is like divine sarcasm, which is very, very intense. God says, among lots of other things, it's a very long passage, "Who sets the wild donkey free? Who loosens the bonds of the onager, whose home I have made in the wilderness, the salt land his dwelling place? He scoffs at the tumult of the city, does not hear the shouts of the driver. He roams the hills for his pasture. He searches for any green thing. Would the wild ox agree to serve you? Would he spend the night at your crib? Can you hold the wild ox by ropes to the furrow? Would he plow up the valleys behind you? Would you rely on his great strength and leave your toil to him? Would you trust him to bring in the seed and gather it in from your threshing floor?" The point of all this is that there is so much of creation that exists that human beings don't even know about, and so much of creation that exists and apparently gives no benefit to humankind. Wild oxen and wild donkeys cannot be domesticated for farm work. They don't care about humans, and they're not going to help humans. So that brings us back to the parasites that are in danger of going extinct along with their hosts. God might as well say, "Did you put the parasites inside the lemurs in Madagascar? Do you know why they exist? Do you know what purpose they serve?" No, the answer is no. We know very little about the parasites and what they do. And because there certainly seems to be no benefit to humanity from these parasites, a question like the radio interviewer's question to the scientist may come naturally. So what if these parasites go extinct? How will that affect humanity? What were they doing for us anyway? So the Jewish answer to that question is God's question to Job. Where were you when I created the world? In other words, what makes you think creation is all about humanity? Sure, I gave you dominion, but having power over creation doesn't mean that it exists just to benefit you. The endangered parasites are valuable and they matter simply because they are part of the natural world, part of creation. We don't have to understand why everything exists to recognize that, in the language of our tradition, everything in creation is important because God made it, including creatures and plants that have no benefit to us, like parasites on endangered lemurs in Madagascar. So let us appreciate everything in God's creation, from the many parts of it that do benefit and sustain us to the many parts that have nothing to do with us. As we increasingly face the consequences of the impact human activity is having on changing the world's climate, endangering many, many species, ultimately, which will include ourselves, let us consider what needs to be done to live up to our responsibility to care for God's creation. May we go forward with gratitude and determination to learn, grow, and care for the natural world. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Peace be in the circle you have made of us. Hold us in the hollow of your hand and teach us. Enfold us in the love that makes a circle round. Be with us in this holy place. Be in the circle you have made of us. Hold us in the hollow of your hand and teach us. Enfold us in the love that makes a circle round. Be with us in this holy place. Be in the circle you have made of us. Hold us in the hollow of your hand and teach us. Enfold us in the love that makes a circle round. In the love that makes a circle round. In the love that makes the circle round.
We are turning now to the Elenu. It begins on page 586 at the bottom of the page. I invite you, if you're able, to rise.
Aleno לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולו ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months, or in past years at this time of the year. If you have names that you would like to add for the mourners Kaddish and who are on Zoom, I invite you to put those names in the chat. I'll also give you an opportunity to add them out loud, either whether you're on Zoom or here in the room. I'm sorry I don't have the yard site list in electronic form today, so my apologies for the folks on Zoom for that. We remember those who have died in the past year. Kay Josephs, Arnold Block, Elizabeth Clark, Kyle McGee Sr., Ida Houston, Louisa Espute, Perry De La Touche, Ira Roth, Roberta Hayrath, George Liss, the Reverend Claude Park Street, Sylvia Tishkovich, Ellen Belofsky, Cindy Retagliata, Dolores Weinberger, Suzanne Leknos, Shirley Kafker, Lillian Ridley, Thomas Marinen, Meg Goldate, Marguerite Romeo, John Young, Isadora Frost, Fred Perlman, Bob Ira Kleinberg, Dorothea Schuring, Peter Brandenberger, Lloyd Ricketts, Ellie Heimlich, Sherry Burns, Terry Singer, Henry Kuhn, Lily Zimmett, Bob Perlman, Ira Berkowitz, Bayumi Mohammed, Amy Zisovic, Mary Holland, Dorothy Webster, Robert Allen Santos Sr., Robert Bonenfant, Barry Strumpf, Judy Epstein, Dorothy Mason, Judy Panzer, Barry Ween, Charlotte Brown, David Schachter, Douglas Maines, Devorah Lewis, Tria Sapir, Jane Evans, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Manny Pastor, Ruth Rubin, Harris Reese, Todd Zeitlin. On our yard site list this week are included Herbert Hollander, Stan Hollander's brother, and Gilda Silverman, Sam Silverman's mother. Shuli Rokach, Martin Levine, Linda Kushner Silverman's grandfather, Samuel Rubenstein. Other names for the mourners Kaddish here in the room. Freema?
My father, William Gelb, Jack Mandel, and Betty Rubel. Thank you.
Any other names? Phyllis? So I'll just repeat what Phyllis said. She wanted to call our attention to one of the names of the recent deaths, and that was Arnold Block, who died earlier this week. And he was a past president of Temple Beth Emeth, which is one of the synagogues that came together to create Beshert. And back in the 90s, when the synagogue was in very, very difficult financial times, he was very instrumental in keeping the place together and keeping things going. And so Phyllis wanted us to recognize that, and rightly so. Thank you, Phyllis. And this is the first yard site of Ruth Rubin, Janice Issa's mother. Does anyone else have names to add? Okay, we also include all of those who have died from COVID-19 around the world, and those who have died from other causes, whether in war or famine or terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on the streets of our cities. You can find the Mourner's Kaddish in your prayer book on page 598. I invite you to rise and join in, or to participate according to your own custom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yamru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Ulalmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shmei Dekudasha B'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya B'chaim Elenu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom Elenu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved wherever they may be. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
I'd like to invite our president, Adrian Knoll, trying to spotlight you. Don't seem to be able to. I'll try again in a moment. But Adrian, would you please give us announcements?
Sure. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
There we go.
Thank you to Rabbi, to Noni, and thank you to Michael Tornick, who's a member of our family, and it's very nice to have him back home again. Thank you to Linda Horowitz and Alan Zarrow for doing the blessings. Tomorrow morning, religious school will take place here from 9:45 to 11:30. Biyachad is on Zoom at a new time, 10 a.m., 10 to 11. 11:45, Shabbat services, multi-access, Zoom and in person. Masks required. Vaccination cards must be shown. Tuesday, Torah study with Rabbi Pinsky, 1 o'clock. Wednesday, if you know anyone in a confirmation class or who is supposed to be in a confirmation class here, let them know, 6 o'clock Wednesday. I think that's, Women of Besher. No, that's the following. Is that correct? Women of Besher, it's the following week? Can someone correct me? The 12th.
Yes, the ice cream social is on the 12th.
The 12th, okay.
And I just want to mention, Adrian, that gentle chair yoga continues on Mondays, 4 to 5 o'clock on Zoom.
Can people still register? Are there any spots?
Yes, there are spots available. So please join us.
And if people want to register, how do they do that?
Okay, they can contact myself or Joni, and we'll send them the link.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Have a good week, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Feel better, President Adrian.
Feel better,
Thank you.
Adrian.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to close this evening with Adon Olam. What page did you say, Ron?
625.
Page 625. I invite you to rise if you're able.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah b'terem kol yitzir nifra v'yitnasa v'chefzo kol azay melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hove v'hu yeh b'tifara v'hu echad ve'ein sheni להמשיל לו להגבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצוחב לי בעת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום אקרא בידו אפקיד רוחי בעת ישתן והעירה ואם רוחי גביע Adonai li Elohi ra.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.